who am I? My name is Inga and I'm a BJJ head coach at a gym called Reykjavík MMA. And I'm a former strength and conditioning coach of Mjölnir MMA's competition team, both BJJ and MMA. And I've been doing strength and conditioning coaching for 8 years maybe. And I'm a personal trainer, yoga teacher, and nutritional coach as well. So I think a lot about these things, these aspects in terms of the sport. And then I'm also the first female BJJ black belt in Iceland. So I'm combining it together, and I'm always thinking about how to improve your strength and conditioning for BJJ. So that's the main focus for today. How we do a proper strength and conditioning for BJJ. Strength and conditioning, what's most important from my point of view? These are the points that I think are most important. Warm-up routine, and that's warm-up routine, fundamental strength, unilateral work, and body awareness. And I will go over each and every point of that part separately. So these are the most important parts in strength and conditioning for me. And areas under most intention, in my opinion, it's the knees, the hip flexors, it's the lower back, shoulders, and neck. So pretty much every part of the body. And you're like putting tension on all of the joints, you're putting tension on the hips, a lot of tension on the knees, lower back, and the neck as well. So you have to be careful, to attend to your strength and conditioning to keep your body as whole and fresh as you possibly can. And for me, that's fundamental strength. That's most important, to have fundamental strength in the body so your joints are more able to perform all the techniques that you're doing, and you have good strength around the joints that are under big intention on the mats. So, warm-up. For me, this is one of the most underrated parts of training. And many people skip warm-up, and I'm guilty of that myself as well. I sometimes do it, but I try to always get physically ready before every class. And it's only 10 minutes that you have to give yourself for every class to do a warm-up routine. And it's really important because your body will definitely thank you later. Even though you're maybe young right now and don't feel the tension on the body, but after some time it will start to add up. And I would say to have your own routine. So, because many classes, they start with warm-up routine, and that's all fine and nice and everything like that. But the warm-up routine is so different between classes and how much attention people pay to the warm-up routine. So I would say if you have some specific things that you always want to warm up, you have a tight hip flexors, then you have to open up the hips, or you have a tight upper back, so you want to do openings for the shoulders or tight neck. So if you have specific areas that you need to attend to, then to do it prior training. So you do that before the training session, and then you can participate in the warm-up routine. Or you do the warm-up routine, and then you can add in some of your own movement. But I would say this is really important. And also, if you're doing your warm-up routine, it might be good to have maybe 2 or 3 different routines that you can change between over time. So you don't get bored of the same routine the whole time. And this is the part of the warm-up that I would suggest. And I'm going to go over each part of it. And on the next slide, I have photos of the foam rolls or lacrosse balls, so you can see the places I'm talking about, but I'm going to go over it briefly as well. So I would say for the foam rolling, I would say to use it maybe 2 times per week, 3 times per week. You don't have to do it before every session. And it's 30 seconds, 1 minute per area of the body. So if I'm talking about the upper back, a good way to foam roll the upper back would be to put the foam roller under the upper back, and you never put the foam roller under the lower back, because your spine, and you have like a floating rib cage, floating ribs on the rib cage, and they can like break if you don't attend to them. Yeah, careful. So here, I would suggest to put your hands over the head, and you have probably all seen this. You put the hands up, and here you are just foam rolling the upper back over the rib cage, up and down here. And you can also put your hips down on when you have the foam roller high, and then you can open up your chest, and then you can go a bit higher, put the hips down, and open up the chest, all over the rib cage. So this would be the first one, and this one I do maybe 4 or 5 times a week, just because it feels nice. And also the latissimus dorsi, and that's a muscle here under the shoulder that often gets really tight because a lot of pulling, pushing movements. So here you would go on your side and you would put your hand up, and it can also go over another muscle called serratus anterior. And here you would just foam roll up and down here on the side of the rib cage. And you can also stop if you have like a tension, a part that is really tight, and you can roll forward and go backward here and stop on a point if you feel it's tight. So that would be the next one. Tensor fasciae latae, that's on the hip, and I'm going to show one area as well. This one is on the side of the hip, and this muscle also gets really tight, and it's inside of the hip. So you can start here and you feel the tension from the muscle here. You can also go up on your back, sit up here, and you can put the knee crossed over, and then you can put the hands on the mat and slide here to the side. And you should feel it. It's a muscle here, it's a combination of muscles that are in this area, and because we're always like pulling the legs towards us, this tends to get really tight, and also on the front of the hip. And the IT band, if you have a tight IT band, then you can get like knee pain, and that some people think it's in the knee, or there's something wrong with the knee, then it might only be the IT band is tight. And from when you're working on this, then you would go on your side, you would put the leg on the mat, and you slide here down towards the knee. You can stop on points that are sore, and you can also put both of the legs on the foam roller. And here I would give you like, I would do it for like 1-2 minutes or so. When you have gone through the foam roller, and you don't, like I said, you don't have to do this before every training session. You can do it before, after, or just at home when you're watching the TV or something like that. For the next part, I would say joint mobility. That's really important in my opinion. And I start every class doing joint mobility. Often I do joint mobility a couple of times over the day, if I'm teaching a lot. But I would say like to do joint mobility every day is really good for the body. So we're going to stand up and we're going to roll through the joint mobility. So just stand up here, and the first thing we're doing, we're isolating each area of the body. So we're starting by looking up and looking down. So here we are opening up, loosening up the neck before training, and you just look up and look down. The next thing, you put your chin in and you look to the right and left, here. And next thing, you put your ears toward your shoulders, you keep your rib cage just in the same place, opening up the neck, and then you do a small circular movement, and you just do like half a circle in the beginning. So you do half circles here, because for some people this here is a lot of strain on the neck. So we just start here, left and right, and there. Now we move down to the shoulders, and first we do small movements, and it's the same here. We're not like starting with big movements with the hands. We're just starting with small movements of the shoulder. And turn sides, the other side, forward. And now we put the elbows in as well. And change. And now you can add the big movement where the pinky is like starting the movement. You open up the shoulders, go all the way back and down. And again, opening up the shoulders. And you don't want to like go really hard on this movement. You're just opening up the shoulders, opening up the back. And switch sides. Now it's the thumb that leads. So we open up forward. Yes, exactly. Okay, and then we take the hands and we open to the side and we use our body as well. Turn to the side, left and right. Here, and you can activate the core as well while doing it, because it's important to keep the spine, to be safe around the spine. So we're opening up the upper back. You can go up, and you can go down as well. So you can move like around the spine, and then you can stop in the middle, keeping the glutes and the hips tight, opening up the upper back. And then we end in the middle and we open up the chest and lean back. So we're opening up and leaning back. Yeah. Couple of times here. Next thing, we go to the hips. So small movements here around the spine. Now we're just opening up the hips around the spine, and then we turn sides, the other circle, and we make bigger movements, opening up the hip, and turn sides, and next it's the knees, circular movements here, opening up the knees. And turn sides, the other. Bit front and back. So now we are also opening up the ankles. So we put our weight forward and we extend the knees. Good. And extend the knees. And now we step on the left foot. We do a right ankle and we do, what's the wrist? The uller. The wrist. So we turn the wrist. Here. And we change other way around. And we change leg, and now we're going to do the elbows with it. So it's a coordination as well, and balance. Here. And turn. Okay, good. Now you've done the joint mobility. I'm going to go through because active stretching is also really important. So this would be the first part of the warm-up, and the next one would be active mobility. And then I'm just going to show you a couple of moves that I usually use, and some combination of these, do a couple of them, and before every training session. The first would be lunges with rotation. So these are, you stabilize the knee, you step forward, you lean down and you open up the chest. You step back and you do the same the other way around. Usually I use just like, I go over to the other side of the room. So I would just walk here, step, step, and then turn. So this would be the first movement. And it's important to stabilize the knee, so we're never like leaning in, and we're always like keeping the hips active. And the next thing would be a long front step with elbow touch. So that might be here, and we go down, and you could put the elbow down, step, same, open, all the way over. After this, front kick to single leg deadlift, and it's all like hip activation we're doing. And that would be like we kick up front, and we take a single leg where you stabilize the back, all the way down. Step forward, the same here, up, and keep your spine straight and to the single leg. Okay, next one, knees to chest and rotation. Then you're taking the hips towards you, opening up and activating the ankle at the same time. So you take the knee up and then you open out. Same here, up and open out. Okay, so a lot of hip and we're combining movements together here. Hamstring and quad stretch, there are a couple of things you can do there. You can step forward here as well. You can drag the leg over, so many of these movements, and it's always important to activate the parts that you're working on. Hindu push-ups, then we are here. You open your chest, go back, and then you can step forward. Same here. Wall slides and raises and face pulls. These are all to activate the upper back. You can do that, then you would go to the wall. Just gonna use this one here. This is kind of hard. So you would put your back here. I'm just gonna sit down. And then you put your hands up and go down. Now you're opening up the upper back. And often it looks like this with people. So they have to put extra attention to do these things. So the goal is to keep the hands up, opening up the chest and going back down. And you can also lay on the floor, activate the hips and do the same here. Lift the hands or the whole upper body. And it's really important to activate the upper back as well. Controlled bodyweight squats, that's just simple squats. Core and hips are really important as well. So that's a part that I always take in, and I put extra intention to because there's a lot of rotational movement. Dead bug, bird dog, stay front, I'm going to go briefly over that. Dead bug, now you're activating the core here the whole time. Bird dogs, it's the same movement. We activate the core and we open up the upper back, we hold out and we're not loosening the core here. It's important to be stable and look down and we hold. Jane Fonda, that's the simple one here where you're activating the hip, and it's important as well that you're not losing the hip. Hip cars, all these movements where you keep the hip stable and you go to circular movements around the hip, and you can also do it with the shoulders. And plank, monster walk, these are all the kind of exercises that are in the same category. To higher up the heart rate, you're putting your pulse a bit up, then you can do skipping, marching, single leg jumps, and it can be good to get the heart rate a bit up before you start rolling as well. So that's always these movements here where you jump into the right, jump into the left. Single leg jumps, you're jumping on one leg, stabilizing the knee, biking, rowing, treadmill, jump rope, short sprints, just to get you a bit more activated. So that I would say would be a really good warm-up routine. And you can also take some parts of it and add other and just do as you wish, but I would always recommend taking some part of each and every step into the warm-up routine. You don't have to do all of them, but some of them is ideal. Okay, 2 to 4 movements maybe for each and every one. So these are like I showed you now, but these are the areas that I was talking about. Body awareness, so that's most important. When weightlifting, when doing BJJ, body awareness is key, in my opinion. So to have a good base, what I mean by good base, learn to do the fundamental movements before you start adding too much weight. It's the same as in BJJ, we learn a regular armbar before we do a flying armbar. So it's kind of the same. So we're always, we want to, if we're doing squat, then we want to get a good controlled bodyweight squats, where we put the knees in front, we have good hip mobile, or the hips are mobile, we go down and then we go up again, activating every part of the body before we start adding load. Because what the load does, it puts load on the movement that you're doing prior. So if the movement is not like proper or good enough, then it wouldn't be good for you to have like big weights on it, because then you're putting strain on your body. And then you might be doing more harm than good. Move, like I said, move properly through every movement before you start loading. And it might be good to have like a professional opinion if you're like not sure, or you're always getting like a back pain or stuff like, because it's often easy to adjust, and you might just need like one comment or something to activate the core, stuff like that. And in my opinion, you should be able to perform your strength and conditioning training everywhere. Of course, it's really good to have like big weights if you prefer that. But in my opinion, you can do like strength and conditioning work bodyweight, and you can use a kettlebell. For almost every movement, you just adjust the training toward that. So so you should be able to do it everywhere. And know your body. It's the same here. Body awareness, know your body. And unilateral work. Are you familiar with unilateral work? So then that's when we are like doing split squats, we're doing single leg, something we're activating throughout the body. So we're a bit off balance often. It's the single leg, it's the lunges, it's the when you're using, like when you're on one leg and you have to stabilize the core. And in my opinion, that's really good to do like strength and conditioning work when you have stabilized the fundamentals, like doing on both legs squat, and you do it properly, and you feel like secure in that. Then you can always change to single, activating now you're focusing more on one leg, and that's more like BJJ. We're always like working here, going over, and using this movement. So I would always suggest doing unilateral work. And in BJJ you have to be able to perform technique where you are a bit off balance or a lot off balance. Often we are just with one hand and legs in the air and stuff like that. So it's really important to be able to know your body and that positions as well. And solid core. And that doesn't mean like having like big six-pack or something like that. I'm talking about like you have a good and solid base, you have a core that supports to the back, and there are like 4 different types of muscles in the core, so you're activating each and every of them, not just the big one here. So that means like, we're going here doing core exercises, different types of plank where you are keeping your hips up, and all kinds of stuff where you're stabilizing the core. And the core is from here and it goes under the hip. So we always have to have stable glutes as well to support the core area with it. Strong hips and glutes as well. So that's this area here that I'm focusing on. And then you are more able to be like flexible with the hands if you always have a solid base in the middle. Okay, fundamental strength. I categorize the strength training, and in that way it's easier to make your own program. So if I'm categorizing, then I usually combine the training session is a combination of these movements. And in this way it's easy to pick 1 or 2 exercises from each and every category and make a training session knowing that I'm working on the whole body. So that's really easy and good adjustment to be able to perform the strength and conditioning without having to think too much about it. And push and pull upper body. Here I'm talking about every pushing movement, every pulling movement on the upper body. And on the next slide I go over it more detailed what exercises that are. And horizontal and vertical, then we're both doing this way and also over the head. Hip dominant and knee dominant. Hip dominant exercises are the exercises where we're using the hips, like bridges, all these movements here where the hip is starting the movement and doing the movement. Knee dominant is all the squats, the lunges, and everything where the knees are like dominant in the movement. Core and hips, always in it. Core and hips, then I'm talking about like more smaller exercises here around the hip area. And I always think it's fun to have combined movement patterns as well. It's not necessary, but it can be fun, like Turkish get-up, adding movements, more movements into the training session as well. And here is the script for the training session. And first I go over the exercises, and on the next slide I show you how you can make your own. So upper body pull, horizontal and vertical. That's all kinds of row. So all kinds of rowing exercises. You can do rowing exercises many ways. You can use the TRX bands. You can stabilize the core, taking pulling motions, stepping back, always stable core, opening up here, and you can do like many types here. Pull-ups as well, high pull, where you take the kettlebell and you pull all the way up. TRX row, one arm row, or you can have two kettlebells. You can have a barbell as well. And you can play with it, all pulling motions. And you're always thinking about when you're doing the pulling motions that you're activating the upper back. You're keeping your core tight, you're activating the upper back, because we push as well a lot in BJJ. So all pulling movements are really good for us. And I would always suggest that you do like 2 pulling movements when you do 1 pushing movement. Because most of us are more leaning forward with the upper back. Upper body push, horizontal and vertical. Bench press, all types, narrow grip, big grip. You can do it with a kettlebell, laying on your back here. You can add the legs and do the same, all kinds of pushing movements. Overhead press. There, it's the same thing. I always think of the body as a whole. Then you can push overhead, activate the core, up in the air. You can have 2. You can use your body with it as well. And you can use dumbbell, you can use everything, more. You can do push-ups as well, Hindu push-ups, just play with it. Hip dominant exercises, then it's deadlift. You can do a deadlift with a big, now I don't remember the name.
Barbell.
Yeah, exactly. And you can do different types. You can do like sumo deadlift, where you put your hips down, opening up. You can have the feet narrow. You can use a kettlebell, have it one-sided, activate the core with it. Single leg deadlift, where you have a kettlebell, barbell, anything, same here. Now you're doing hip dominant. Glute bridges, what I was talking about before, hip thrusts and swings. So all kinds of different movements where you're putting your hips forward, either laying on the floor or standing up. Knee dominant exercises, like I talked about earlier, that's all kinds of squat variations. So now we're talking about like back squats, front squats, hack squats, lunges, split squats, Bulgarian squats, all kinds of movement where you are either on one leg or both legs here. Pistols and step-ups as well. So every movement where the knee is dominating. Core, and in my opinion, rotation, anti-rotation and stability is the most important. Because if you have opponent on you, you're always moving to the sides with a maybe heavier opponent. So it's really important to think about these things, how you're working with your body. Here it would be dead bug, for example. So this is a movement where you are activating the core. You keep your hands and you're going from different directions, keeping the core stable here. Hey. Up, roll out, plank, side plank, turning plank. You know, the options are pretty much endless here. Pull-off press where you're standing, stabilizing. We holds, hollow rock. So hollow rock when you're stabilizing, you can do all these movements, turning like I was earlier. But like I said, in my opinion, rotation after rotation and stability is the most important here. Full body, like I was saying, it's fun to add the full body exercise with it. Turkish get-up, for example, that relates straight to BJJ. And this is the, I don't know if you're familiar with that exercise, but that's the exercise where you take up, you turn, look at the kettlebell, stand up, and it looks pretty familiar for many things we are doing in BJJ. So here you're stabilizing the whole body. Back squats, then you can play with it. You can add two movements together. Maybe do like a clean and back squat, and now you've combined, if you have short time, then you've combined two movements together. Yeah, so that's pretty much the thing. So I would suggest like taking 1 to 2 exercises from each part, and then you just make your own training sessions, yeah, pretty easily. And here, building a plan for strength and conditioning. My recommendation would be, it's enough to take it, even if you can get up with 1 training session per week, it's always better than not to do it. And you can also add it after BJJ as well, if you're limited on time. But 2 times 45 minutes or 3 times 30 minutes per week is my suggestion for strength and conditioning. And fitting it into your schedule. So I would say just be realistic on how you would like to do your strength and conditioning. And it's always better to like fit it after training than not to do it. So if you only have like limited time, then you can like warm up for the BJJ class, do some of the movements, and then maybe a bit after, taking lighter loads and adjusting to lifestyle you're living. And my suggestion would be to cover all of the body in every session. So you're going over these movements, like it's not the bodybuilding style that I would recommend, where you're only focusing on arms one day, the next one only on legs, because it can be also pretty heavy on the body. So if you're only doing legs and you're going to a class, then you might be like destroyed the day after, and then you're not able to train. And I like to train every day, at least for me, so I want to be able to perform on the mats. And strength and conditioning is about to assist me to be able to train as much as I can. And I recommend supersets. So supersets is when you're taking 2 exercises and you're combining them together. So that would maybe be, so I'm doing 1 pulling motion, so I would do maybe rowing, and then after that, after I'm done with the time there, or the reps, then I would do back steps. So I'm combining 2 movements and then I rest. And time or reps is up to you. If you're doing reps, then I would suggest from 5 up to 15. If you're doing like pure strength, then it's more like 5 reps. If you're doing 15, it's lighter weights and you're working on other systems in the body. But for many people, time is the easiest way. And then I would recommend doing 40 seconds under tension, or if you're doing each side, 30 seconds each side, then you go to the next exercise, you perform that under time as well, and then you rest between sets. About the rest, if you're doing like a big motion like deadlift, then I would just either do it just by itself or add the core movement with it, nothing too heavy on the body with that exercise, and then the rest could be there from 1.5 minutes up to 3 minutes between sets if you're taking 5 repetitions. But if you are, for most exercises, for all these exercises I've been showing, the rowing and stuff like that, then I would say the rest would be from like 30-40 seconds up until 1 minute-ish. And you feel it on your body as well. If you're super tired, then you of course rest a bit more. And if you're fresh, then you can keep going. And I always put timer on myself, because it's so easy to like go lifting and you're just gonna go and do the thing, be 45 minutes, but then you start like slacking, chilling more between sets or something, then it might take much longer time, and it's also more efficient just to keep you going, keep you mentally focused in the strength and conditioning as well as you want to do in the BJJ. So that would be my points for that. And also getting conditioning, about specific conditioning, you get a lot of conditioning out of the BJJ sparring. So I always think about that as well. And for me, I often add the strength and conditioning just by doing a bit of conditioning work in the strength training work. So if I'm supersetting, then I might add like 500 jumping ropes after performing. Yeah, and I forgot to mention for the sets, I would say doing 3 to 4 sets of each superset-ish would be a good start. And yeah, so in between, so maybe you might do like 1 superset and then go on the jumping rope, taking the rowing machine 500 meters, pumping it up a bit, and after each superset, add that, or do it in the end, where you can add it after the strength and conditioning, doing 3-4 sets when you're rowing, or for after BJJ class as well. If you feel like you haven't gotten enough conditioning out of the session, then you can add also conditioning extra. And always it works like that we do the warm-up, then we do we warm up good, then we do the most heavy exercises on the body, and then we start to do more cardio and conditioning as it goes on in the training. So we always end with a big conditioning work, so we're not like gassed out when we're doing strength work. And I'm not gonna go like deep into this, but this is just what I'm talking about. We're using different systems in the body. We're using both aerobic and anaerobic systems in the body while we're doing BJJ. If we're doing short rounds, then we might be doing the anaerobic. If we're doing longers, then we go over to the aerobic. So it's a combination of different things there. So yeah, this is kind of everything that I have to share with you for the BJJ strength and conditioning. And do you have some questions? Got it. Okay. For the slides, I can send you the slides. So if you want, you can come to me afterwards and I can send you. So it's easier for you to pick movements, or you can send you the slide with the movements where you can choose from there and how to build it. And so it should be easy for you, or easier at least, to make the strength and conditioning program for yourself. Okay, so thank you for attending today. So much fun to see you. Hope to see you.